And we begin this hour with this story. South Africa is mourning the loss of Gertrude Shope, an anti-apartheid stalwart, uMkhonto weSizwe leader and the ANC Women's League's first president. Shope fought tirelessly for freedom and women's rights. MaShope, as she was affectionately known, leaves behind a legacy as a teacher, a unionist, a politician and a leader. Tributes expectedly are still flooding in as the nation remembers her unwavering courage. Let's continue with some of those reflections around her life and times and bring in now Advocate Brenda Madumise-Pajibo, who joins us now, who's the director of WISE Collective and is with us via our video link. Advocate, it's lovely to see you. Thanks very much indeed for making time. And of course, when a giant like this passes, the world, or the country at the very least, has to pause to reflect on the contributions and, of course, what this might mean for the ongoing struggle, particularly for women's rights in the country.
Absolutely. Good morning to you and to your viewers. Absolutely. And I think what perturbs me as a South African at my age is that the many young people have got no clue of who MaShope is or was, right? And we continue not to be telling that the stories of the bravery, the resilience, and that the courage to stand up in a patriarchal organization like the ANC, and you then make your voice to be heard. And she was one of those that did exactly that. And once they came back from exile, and she was the first president of the Women's League, and to make sure that the Women's League finds a seat at the table for conversations around policy changes and what kind of policy changes are suitable for this country. She was a trailblazer in ensuring that that voice is heard. So it's for many of us who keep on saying that we walk alongside and we come from the stock of that of the likes of MaShope, to truly give ourselves time to understand who these individuals were and what was their contribution to get us to a point where we can talk about gender equality and continue to demand that we have substantive equality in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. And often when we speak about apartheid, I don't think we spend enough time talking about the intersectional struggle that some people, including MaShope, waged during that time. And I suppose in many ways, as I mentioned previously, that work continues, but how much of it do you reckon still has that intersectional lens that I'm sure she prioritized in her own activism?
So intersectionality it's a must in the work that we do, right? It's intersectionality is important for any government administration in ensuring that it changes the lives of its citizens, right? So you don't look at the economy in isolation of many other things. You don't look at health in isolation of education and other.
Advocate Madumise, are you still there?
I'm still here, but there's someone talking, so
oh, my apologies.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not able to hear that, so I'll just ask the team to just focus on whatever feed we might be receiving. Let me apologize for that. Please continue with your thought.
So as I was saying, intersectionality is a lens that must be taken by all of us, whether in private sector, in government, in civil society, in political parties, in the trade union movement, in the churches, traditional leaders, because our lives are interlinked with almost everything that shapes a human being. So if we're talking about the right to housing, the right to bodily autonomy, right to reproductive rights, right to dignity, all of those things are interlinked. And the role that MaShope played, being one, a mother, being a wife, being a leader, being a military trained woman in a patriarchal organization like the ANC then, being an activist and a feminist in the true sense of the word, is that she found herself in that space and had to navigate all of that and ensure that that voice of hers is not muted and that is going to be heard. So it's a continuation on all of us to ensure that we are not isolationist in our approach. We don't have a one tunnel vision on how we approach issues in this country and beyond. And we continue to do that so that once we have identified the solutions and the interventions take an intersectional, the international solution in its entirety.
Absolutely. You know, as a person whose life was shaped by strong matriarchs. Welcome back as we continue with tributes for MaShope, as she was affectionately known, Gertrude Shope, an anti-apartheid stalwart, uMkhonto weSizwe leader, and the ANC Women's League's very first president, passing away sadly at the age of 99. Let's continue with those reflections now with Advocate Brenda Madumise-Pajibo, who is the director of WISE Collective and is with us once again. Advocate Brenda, thanks very much indeed for your patience. As you were helping us place the intersectional approach that MaShope had to her activism, I was reminded of the many women who shaped my own life, really strong matriarchs, and I found that over time there's a tendency, I think, to inadvertently not see them as the human beings that they are. MaShope in many ways has been remembered for her humility, her discipline, her being a mother, a wife, a family person, and I suppose that really adds to how amazing, for lack of a better term, her life has been, given her ability to juggle all of these things.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we're grateful that she lived for 99 years. I mean, that's a blessing in itself, right? That she was given the opportunity to keep on sharing herself with the many people she came across in her life and interacted with, even when she was not doing well, right? But also I think, Ayanda, if I ask the question, and from all of you, you've just said that, you know, you just went back to the many women who have shaped your life, and when you speak to many men, and I'm saying this deliberately, is that when you hear men talk about their mothers and how the mothers have helped them and have made it possible for them to be who they are in lives, and then you then pick up the misogyny and the violence that is meted against women, and you ask yourself, if you believe so much about the role that women have played in your life and then continue to do so, why would you dehumanize them? Why would you not see them as capable to lead nations? Why would not think that they can lead corporations? And you just think that their lives starts and stops at being mothers and wives and wanting to dim their light, right? And so when we talk about humility, we also need to take into account that when you have humility, people think that you are weak and that you've got nothing to offer. In MaShope, that humility is, and I'm going to say this because I had the privilege of working with her, is in that humility, with her strong views, she was capable of listening to different views, even if she disagreed with those views. So you coming from exile, you have been socialized in a particular way. You come back into the country. You have individuals like some of us who were strong feminists and advocating for radical changes in how gender equality and equity should unfold in this country. And she had the capacity to listen and learn in the process, because some of the concepts, she was hearing them for the first time, and she immersed herself in trying to understand those concepts.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's this great contradiction, especially in a country like ours, right, where every man is born of a woman, but yet we're seeing really staggering levels of violence against women. And in fact, we're expecting the latest crime stats from the police minister in the next hour. I'm willing to bet that we're going to hear this all too daunting refrain about how difficult it is to be a woman in this country still, notwithstanding sacrifices made by women like MaShope.
Absolutely. And I think we need to reflect on those things and go deep into why we think women cannot traverse other spaces, right, that are available for everyone in the country, right? So when we have a constitution that recognizes the right of every human being and every citizen, surely those rights extend to women. But we have sort of taken upon ourselves to think that they are second-class citizens, and the way we keep on treating them, and the way we keep on diminishing their contributions and the role that they play daily in shaping this country, is that it requires a reflection and an introspection amongst all of us to really wrestle with why do we think that that is acceptable, right? And that we're willing to go halfway, not the full mile. And for me is, can we agree that we should be going a full mile? Because once we go a full mile, we all benefit.
Absolutely. This moment comes at a time where there's also great reflections around where Africa is, generally speaking. And of course, the work done by the ANC in many ways has traversed borders on the continent. I imagine that part of what ought to be happening as we speak about Africa's Pan-Africanism, leadership within that context, we should speak about how much space is being given for women to do what they need to do. We're starting to also, I suppose, see some of the women presidents starting to emerge in Namibia. There's also the situation in Tanzania as well. But my question in a very roundabout way is whether or not you're happy with the advances that have been made in giving women not only a seat at the table, but meaningful ability to advance their work.
I mean, that is going to be, if you look at what's happening in the world at the moment, with the pushback on the gains that have been made in over 100 years. So, and I always say this, and I'm going to keep on saying it until it lands. When you decide that another human being, because of their gender, is not enough, and you are denied them the right to exist and to be human for over 100 years, it forces you to pause and think, why was it important to deny women the right to vote in the first place? That we had to fight for that right, to fight for existence, for people to know that we exist and how we exist and how we interact in any given society. And so when all of that is understood, and we start to stop looking at the world through the prism of male, right? And because the default in everything that you do in the world is through the eyes of a male, a man, right? And the sooner we start to recognize the contributions that are being made by others, especially women, is that it's going to make life easier for young girls, young women, young boys, young men to appreciate that the world is in existence because of two genders that must coexist and exist in peace. MaShope worked tirelessly around peace in the continent. That is going to come out, and the role that she played within our foreign affairs is that she believed in peace. And I think all of us want to live in a free, peaceful homes in the first place, free and peaceful communities and society and a country. We want to live in a global world that is peaceful, that you stop killing children in Gaza, you stop killing children and human beings and women in the DRC, you stop killing women in Sudan, you stop killing black men in the USA, you stop denying other people the right to exist because you don't like the way they look or the color of their skin or because they're women. So we really have to talk about why is it that those who are different from us scares this much that we want to deny them the right to exist.
Absolutely. Those reflections so timely given the dynamics just of even world politics today. Advocate Brenda Madumise-Pajibo, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us. We really do appreciate it. Advocate Brenda is a director with Wise Collective.